I just want to say a few things about Maryland family law that I think it's important. In Maryland, property that is considered marital property is property that's acquired during the course of the marriage. That could be a piece of land, a house, a car, and at the divorce, the court will adjust the equities. It's a state, it's not a community property state, it's a state that allows for the court to adjust the equities. So for instance, if you bought a house prior to the marriage, it's not marital property if later on you got married to that person. However, if during the course of a marriage there gets to that point where there's a divorce, there's a claim that can be made at the divorce for retirement share. So you can say, oh, look, I started working at the federal government, as a member of the U.S. Armed Forces before I got married. True. What will happen is that portion that was accumulated prior to your marriage would not be considered. So assuming you worked as a federal government employee for 20 or 30 years, but you were only married for 15 years, the amount that would be allocable for division would be not the 30 years, but just half of the 15 years. And there are other equitable factors that might be considered. If, for instance, one party had retirement, but before the divorce and during the course of the marriage, they dissipated or engaged in waste, meaning, they went to all kinds of fancy holidays, they spent the money on trifles, it wasn't for family use purposes, the court can decide not to do 50-50 on the retirement. Okay? Another issue that comes up often is the issue of fault, adultery. Adultery is still a crime in Maryland. However, it's not prosecuted after 32 years in it prosecuted. The reality is it's a factor, but you have to have, solid circumstantial evidence. And usually nowadays you have folks going into Red Roof Inn, or you have text and other email and exchanges that can be utilized to show that there was a sexual relationship. Private detectives come into play using trackers on vehicles, and the private detective can come in and testify to what they saw while trailing one party or one spouse to the other. One thing to consider, however, is that if during the course of the marriage, after the adultery has been discovered, and it's known to the non-offending spouse, and the offending spouse says, look, I committed adultery, I admitted it, we went to counseling, we continued living for several years, there is that principle which excuses it called condonation. That is, the other side condoned it. And that would be a defense to the claim of adultery. So those are just some little tidbits that can be helpful in a Maryland divorce case. Adultery is also a factor, or fault is a factor in the discussion of spousal maintenance, or what they call alimony. So you can look at the 9 factors. Those include fault, include age, include health, include the income of the party. So if one party is making $150,000 and the other party is making $20,000, that disequilibrium certainly favors the more affluent spouse, providing spousal maintenance or alimony to the less affluent spouse. We'd be happy to have you come by our office. We've been doing family law cases for more than 30 years, and we've done it quite well, and we'd be happy to give assistance to you. Thank you very much.